But my mind is thinking this morning as we journey back. I do for a few years. I was invited up to Forest Lawn and California, up above Los Angeles. My first purpose for going up there was to visit the grave of Amy Semple McPherson, the founder of the Foursquare movement. And I went to her tomb. And although I differed with the woman as a minister, but yet in my heart I give admiration and respect for what she stood for in the hour and the persecution things she had to go through with, and time of her being here on the earth, and then for her beloved son, which is a bosom friend of mine, Rolf McPherson. And a group of ministers, we went up there, and we didn't have time to go in to into the place where they have the cremation and put the bodies in a little box on the side of the wall. And in there they had some outstanding things, such as the Last Supper, and it's lighted by the actual light of the sun. And they have a shutter that it gives them when they go in, it's light. And then as they begin to speak, it darkens up, and after a while it all becomes dark. And then the people go out. And they have all the supper, and the woman that helped the secret of how to beat this glass into this place, why make these pictures, why it come to a family for many years back, and the art would just give it to the children, and the last one was a woman, and there's fixing this picture, and when they went to mold and burn the glass, bake it of Judas Iscariot, it busted. So then they tried it again, and it busted again. And she said, maybe our Lord doesn't want His enemy pictured by His side. And said, if it burst again, we'll not complete the picture. It helped that time. Then, of course, that was a striking thing, and how that such things would happen. But then one of the main things that interests me in Forest Lawn was Michelangelo's, the great sculpture, the monument of Moses. It's a reproduction there, of course. It isn't the original, but it was such a great masterpiece. And as I stood and looked at it, I liked that. Something that looks like it represents, got something to it. I like art real well. I believe God is in art. I believe God is in music. I believe God is in nature. God's everywhere, and anything that's contrary to the original is a perversion. God is in dancing. Not the kind of dancing you do here, but when the sons and daughters of God are in the Spirit of God, that's dancing. But like I had to contend with at 2 o'clock this morning, up there in the lane, That's the perversion of it. But this masterpiece that Michelangelo had made, it cost him something to do that. He was a great man, and it cost a big part of his life, because he was many, many years and carving out. Just take a rock and a marble and keep carving it. And to see only the man, the sculptor himself, has in his mind what he's trying to do. He's the one. You might walk up and say to him, what are you pecking on that rock for? To the outsider who doesn't know what's in his heart, it's nonsense. But the man, the sculptor himself, he's got a vision in his mind, what he's trying to make. And he's trying to reproduce what he has on his mind in the form of a monument. That's the reason he's digging it out of the rocks. And this to do, you have to start off right at the beginning. And you have to follow the pattern. See, you can't get a little piece, start off, we'll make it this way. No, I believe. No, he's got to have an exact pattern. And in his mind, he's got that pattern, and he cannot vary from that pattern. Now, in order to do this, he had to draw in his mind, because we have no real pictures of Moses. But he had to get a mental picture in his mind of exactly what Moses was. Now, a genuine sculpture is inspired like a genuine poet or any genuine singer, musician, whatever it might be. All real has to come by inspiration. Michelangelo must have had the inspiration of what Moses really looked like, and he caught it in his mind. What Moses must have been, so he set forth on this great piece of marble, cutting to the pattern and bringing down and honing down till you got to the real picture of what it must have been in his mind. And then when he got all so perfect, every corner off and every place rubbed, and the eyes just right, every hair and beard all just the way it was. You stood off and looked at it. I think of many, many hard years of labor, and how he had to hold that same vision all the time in his mind of what he was going to do. And just think that vision on his mind for so many years, to make it look just exactly to what it was. He caught the vision first, and how he had to work to that vision, cutting off and making down, And when he got it to where he perfected, till it really got perfect, he stood and looked at it when he finished up that morning with the hammer in his hand. And he was so inspired when he looked at it, because the vision of his mind was standing before him in reality. What he had seen and his conception of what Moses was, there it was figured before him. What he'd had in his heart all these years of toils and hours of sorrow and distress and critics and everything else. But yet he stayed right with the vision until it was completed. And then when it was completed, he stood back with the hammer, sculpture's hammer, in his hand, and he looked at that monument, and the inspiration of the vision that he had seen of how to do it inspired him so much till the inspiration struck him till he got beside himself and struck it across the knee and said, "Speak!" Now, there's a flaw on that great image. On the knee, on the right knee, just above the knee, about 6 inches, is a place. I put my hand on it. About that deep. After he had spent all that time, for years and years to make this, then under the influence of seeing fulfilled what he had seen in his heart, in his vision, and desired to see, it was completed. And when it was completed, he was so inspired by it till he thought his own masterpiece should speak back to him. And he struck it across the leg and hollered, "Speak!" And it made a flaw on it. It put a flaw on the image. To me, the flaw was what made it the masterpiece. Now, maybe to the mind that might think different, you think that spoiled it. No, to me, it made it what it was. Because of after so many years of careful work and toils and inspiration and so forth of making it, his toil had proved not in vain. It was perfect, and that's why he cried out, "Speak." Because he had seen before him that he had been able to achieve, to bring to pass the vision that was in his mind. And therefore, under inspiration, he'd done something out of the reason, out of the ordinary. He struck it and hollered, "Speak!" See, he wouldn't have done that if he'd have thought. But he didn't think. It was inspiration of seeing what he had in his mind, sitting there perfectly before him. His toils and wearies and long nights and housed away from the world for days, to maybe eat a sandwich and rub on it and get back. And no, that's just not the way it was. It's got to come down to this. And rubbing, and then when he saw it just perfect, then he saw in reality the negative of what was in his mind had become real. It become positive. Therefore it sprung into him. It was so real that he must cry out, "Speak!" To me, it was a reflection. It was a compliment to his work. That his own work so inspired him that he would become beside himself to smite it and say, "Speak." I stood there and looked at the monument. I thought of the hours that the man must have put in making it. He said how many years it was. But it was a reflection to him because it was a contribution to his great art, his great work of what he was doing. And when he finally was able to achieve it, it was so great.